And I just love empowering people that have come from non-traditional backgrounds who are thriving in the tech industry. My guest, Mariella Delamore, is one of them. And this is my overall passion, is really to empower those underdogs, empower those diamonds in the rough who don't come from the elite background, who didn't have the opportunity to go to top tier universities, but they're thriving in what they're doing.
If I tried to design this life back then, I couldn't have done it. Every pivot was necessary to have the life that I have now. So I think if there's one thing I want to remind you guys of, is every detour is necessary. Every decision, every learning experience, every pivot adds to who you are. Mm-hmm. It adds to your life experience, your wisdom, all of those things. So don't be afraid. There's no way you can get it wrong. I think that's a big thing. It could just be something you're leaning into or leaning away from. How to create containers in your everyday life with less interference, you will get inspiration.
I love that. That's so true. As far as disconnecting from all of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if it's a simple thing of putting a time block on your calendar, where I was so inspired by you, is you had multiple things going on in your personal life, but you still were able to show up for yourself, show up for your daughter, and you figured it out.
Healthy marriage of leaving a career that didn't fulfill me, but sometimes things happen. And that is where you are pivoting and you didn't choose it, but you're like, right, what do I need to do?
Pat, if you're watching, shout out to you. But
Pat brought the story out of me. Pat brought the story out of me and Follow That Fear. And she cried as well. And I think I've just told this so many times that I don't cry about this part anymore. But I think if anything, I just was like, I need to just deal with the thing that's in front of me.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. It is my special Mother's Day LinkedIn live edition. I have my lunch right here, my salad, trying to get my quarantine body right. I'm super excited for today's show. Special shout out. I see DJ in the comments. She did a beautiful and amazing job on my intro. I'm super excited to welcome my friend and coach. Yes, coaches have coaches, because in order for me to help grow my community and help job seekers, I need to grow myself. So I've been working with Mariella for, I want to say, a few months now. We've all connected because of LinkedIn, because of Instagram. But today we are going to be talking about motherhood. She's going to drop some gems on how to avoid burnout as a full-time working mother and a side hustler. So let's welcome Mariella to the show.
Hello. Oh my gosh. It's good I had a minute, because I saw that intro and I was like, June, don't do this to me.
Cheering.
That was such a powerful conversation and still so relevant. So I'm just really happy to be here with you again.
Thank you. I feel like it's relevant right now too, because I'm pivoting again.
Yes. When you think about that, it's like the pivots are perpetual. It isn't, a one-time thing. That's what growth looks like. You literally could not grow without pivoting.
No, exactly. So. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Before we kick off this conversation on my lunch hour, we're going to go live on Instagram too. So this is my third time doing this again. So let's see if I could get this right.
Okay.
I think I invite you.
Talk about multitasking. Here we go, guys.
I think we could do a request to join. I'm just going to see who is in the comments here. Please comment below. I see Melvin here. DJ's here, of course. LinkedIn user. I think it's Michelle. Michelle, thank you for tuning in. Happy early Mother's Day to you. There you go. How do I do this? How do I bring you in? Okay, view request.
I just requested, so that should be all good.
Go live.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, Ariel. I think you're coming in now. There you are. Okay. Oh, here, heck no. Let me lower this down really quick.
I just lowered my volume too on my phone, so that should be all good.
Okay. All right. There we go. We are live on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere.
Yes.
In my office, in your living room. I know we've been working together in our drinks. Why don't you go ahead and this is your second time on my show. Introduce yourself to my community.
Well, I'm Mariella Delamora. I am a life and leadership coach for women of color. I work especially with Latinas and daughters of immigrants, and I help them to understand their past, how their past affects the way that they are showing up in their life and their business, and just to help them to decide who it is that they want to be moving forward. And so it's been a mix of like my life experience through my own healing journey, as well as me leading teams, because previous to this, I was in marketing for 15 years, most recently as a director of marketing. And the most fulfilling part of that job was not even the marketing. I loved that, but it was being a mentor, hiring, building up teams. And so I pivoted, and now I do more of what I love. And I've just created a whole business just around everything that, lights me up. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm also a single mother to a 4-year-old, and that is an adventure. We live in Portland. I feel like I am just at the tail end of just a lot of, chaos and turmoil and growth and all of the things. And now I feel like I'm at this really, really great place where I love what I do. I love who I serve. I love working with you, June, and I'm just very excited to be here.
I love working with you too. I just appreciate that you are in my corner, and that I literally feel like you are in my back pocket with our voice messaging and notes.
Yeah, I'm glad that you feel that way, because I'm like, listen, let's just talk. And I'll just be like, hey, how are you today? Like, really, we'll talk about stuff. And then, I think with my clients sometimes, and with moms and just busy people, we tend to answer the question, how are you, with, well, this is happening and this is on time and this isn't, and you tend to talk about your kids and your work. But sometimes I'm like, how are you as a human right now? Like, how are you feeling? And sometimes getting into that is really the most important thing, is just doing that self-check.
No, it's so important. Yeah, to do that self-check.
Yes.
I want to say hi to everyone on Instagram. If you want to watch us on YouTube, the link is in my bio. But let's get into the discussion today. I think it's perfect, just because I know I have a lot of full-time working mothers in my community. I know DJ is working full-time, and she also has a business side hustle. So let's talk about what are some of actually, before we go into it, because I know before you pivoted into being a full-time entrepreneur,
yes,
you were working as well as
yes,
managing, the schedule with your daughter, and then managing your side business. How was that overall experience for you?
Man, so to give you guys a little backstory into the circumstances under which I became a mother, and why that's important, because I had to really learn how to reframe what I saw as productivity, what I saw as achievement, where my worth came from, is that I became a mother, in the midst of a divorce and an international move, because I was living in London with my daughter's dad, my ex-husband, and literally pregnancy, divorce, same time. Also moving back to America, and having her, here in California with my parents' help. And so I went from working 12-hour days, actually, honestly, no lie, 15, 16-hour days for 2 years, because I had my director of marketing job, and I also had a dating app that I was a co-founder of. And so motherhood really shook that up for me, because that's how I spent my time. It was I was always doing, and I had a really hard time just sitting still with myself. Motherhood completely changed that, to where I was it became less about productivity I think at first I was trying to do that, and eventually I just surrendered, and I was like, my life is completely different now. I have to take care of myself now. I literally, if I don't take care of myself, I can't produce milk for my daughter. Like, you start to have these thoughts sometimes where I'm like, if I don't pour into my cup. So I was director of marketing and had my daughter home for the first year and a half, where I didn't put her in daycare. And I had to transition from a full-time job to literally putting her in a swing while she slept and being on calls, angling the laptop camera up so I can breastfeed during calls. Like, this is how real this stuff is. Being on calls and being like, I'm going to turn the camera off. I need to, like, literally, my kid just had a blowout and I need to, like, clean her up, like, while I'm on this call. And I think at a certain point, I was just like, you know what? I cannot plan my days the way that I used to before. You can't plan stuff with kids. It's just, my goal then became, how can I trust myself a little more today? How can I give myself a little bit more grace today? Because I can't plan this. Kids will totally pull that rug out from under you and force you to be in the present and teach you, I got this, I will figure it out. So I did that for years, until she went to daycare, and then things, got a little bit easier. But when I started my business, that was a whole other thing, because I then had to become extra intentional with my time and energy, because it was my day job, she's in school, and then I put her to bed, and nighttime was my time for my business, and a little bit of a mix in between. And so I just stopped with the multitasking as much as I could. And I was like, this time is dedicated to this time is dedicated to this. And when I'm dedicated to that, that's where I'm fully present. So, kind of in a nutshell, that was sort of like my journey, and how I kept kind of having to fold new ways of looking at what life is like and what does balance look like in this season of life.
Yeah, that's so important. Like, what does balance look like in this season of life?
Yeah, and it changes. Infant to toddler.
It's always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now, because we're still in a pandemic, but things are slowly opening up. And the way people are working is changing. I mean, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these companies, including the company that I'm working for, is going into a virtual working environment. And that's been a new experience. But it's like I want to kind of touch on the word balance there, because I think I've shared this with you too before. I think like what I enjoy, like, working with you is you get to help me kind of guide myself through this motherhood journey of, my kids are growing up, they're now going back to school, but now I'm working full time. But this is another journey of me going back into the corporate world. With a small, thriving coaching business. It's evolving. And I'm trying to figure out how to not balance, but integrate everything.
Integrate, yeah.
I like the word integrate, and I've heard that before. Integrate all of these components, moving pieces, whether it being like full-time work, being a wife, being a mother, being a daughter, being a friend, into one life where I feel centered. Where am I going with this? I don't know.
We're integrating it, and where you feel centered, which when I hear that, integrating and feeling centered, is that is subjective to the person, and that it has more to do with how you feel about that integration, more so than like output, because that's, the balance essentially is like where you're not necessarily having to feel, because the thing is you can't be everywhere at once. And when you have a business, I'd say it's much more about, or a side hustle, it's much more about integration even than with a job, because I feel like with a job, they have these more preconceived like timelines around like, your hours are this to this, and there's still integration there, especially if your kids are home. But when it's your side hustle or your business, you kind of never turn it off, and you don't want to. And so it is a lot more about integration than anything else. Like, with me, I'm still like responding to Voxers when I pick up my daughter from school, and she's in the background sometimes. And, it is a little bit of that integration. So I thought that was a powerful thing that you said.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on this too, just because, I've experienced burnout multiple times, even before I approach this entrepreneur journey. What are some of the ways that, like, when you were working full time and then managing your business as well as like motherhood, what are some of the ways that you did throughout your day as far as like self-care routines to avoid that burnout?
Well, it took me, to be honest, a while to actually get there, because I didn't really have a self-care routine, to be honest, for years. It wasn't until I started working with my life coach a little over a year ago that I recognized the importance of that. Because what many of us do is we wake up and we react to the day. So I would wake up, I was working for a UK company, so I was like 8 hours behind, and I'd wake up to a bunch of messages. And so I felt like I'm behind, I need to like be everywhere at one time. But what I wound up integrating later was, what does self-care look like for a busy working mother? You will hear things like, you wake up and you meditate and you do these things. And I'm just like, yeah, that does not work. When I had a 2-year-old at the time, like jumping into bed with me at 6 a.m, like, but what little piece of your day can you carve out that's just for you to be in the present moment? You think about how often in your day do you stop and just think of like, what sounds do you hear? How do you feel in your body? Where are you in the room? What's around you? Do you smell anything? What do you feel? Do you feel the chair that you're sitting in? Like literally just stopping. I don't know that many of us do that. And that's an important thing for us to do. And that doesn't require you like going and having this whole meditation practice. Literally, it's just coming home to your body. How I eventually did that, because it didn't work for me in the morning, was when I switched from my job to my business, which was midday. I worked for a UK company, so I had the privilege of midday was my switch. I would leave the house and I would go walk in the park. And when people who were following me last summer saw me every single day, and I used to post it as for accountability that I would walk to this park. And I would respond to voice notes. So it felt like, okay, I'm productive. I'm like responding to voice notes, but I was like, I walked and talked, and it was a promise to myself that I would keep every day, that I'm like, I'm going to come to this park even when it's raining. I'm going to come to this park and I'm going to walk around, and this is just going to be my time to like center myself. So you decide what that looks like, but there should be some sort of a small promise that you keep to yourself every day that's just for you, just to start practicing having your own back, because as mothers, we often are so self-sacrificial that every part of our existence is pouring into others. And so what little bit can you do for yourself each day that is just for you? And maybe how can you start really, really small? And it's less about the act and more about the fact that you're training your brain to say, when I say I'm going to do something for myself, I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it. You just posted about this on one of your stories last week. You said, in order to be a great leader and lead others, you have to lead yourself.
Yes.
And what you're just sharing is, it's just giving me like so much like fire inside of me, is because like, as like mothers, we tend to just help others and put everyone's needs before ours. And then we'll reach that burnout where like we're in the freaking corner just crying because we're so stressed and we're just so anxious.
Yeah.
But it's important, like you said, is like, there's so many people, including myself, have always would say like, I'm just too busy just to work out, or I'm busy to journal, I'm busy to do any kind of self-care routine. And there's often times where we don't have those moments of mindfulness where we're like disconnected from the laptop, the phone. This morning was the first time in a long time that I walked my dog with nothing on me, no phone or anything. And I love doing these mindful walks because I get to appreciate all of my neighbors' gardens.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And without the phone, the thing is when you have the phone too, you do tend to just like look and feel like I have to check it. And it's like, look around. Like, do you hear the birds? Do you hear the wind? Do you hear dogs barking? Do you hear a siren in the background? Like whatever that is, but just being present. I think that that's super important. That makes me so happy that you're doing that. Cause like when we were chatting earlier this week and you were like, I've really been leaning into my self-care. And I'm like, honestly, it's like the best thing you can tell me. Like, because when we have been modeled self-betrayal, many of us by our own moms, self-betrayal, not in a bad way, but just in a self-sacrificial way, that you see that like your role is to pour into others. Your role is to be there for others. And I have a lot to say about things I've changed in terms of that, because I had to reframe, is that helpful? It's funny because my mom is on this IG, she's on IG Live, and I saw her join. So
hi, Mariella's mom. Hi, everyone on IG.
and she would agree with me, but it's that like, being at the party and you never sit down and you don't eat because you're always asking somebody else, if you want to eat, you need a plate. Oh no, I'm fine. And you don't eat because you're so busy. Like that's oftentimes, think about what was modeled to you as what mothers should be and do. And think about, is that serving me? And do I still want to show up in that way? Because it came from a place of love, but we got to love ourselves. We have to love ourselves so much that like we have enough to pour out for others.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because how can you, where's another quote? I'm going to charge my phone. And everyone in the comments and the community, you got to recharge yourself too.
Oh, you got to recharge yourself.
Yeah. Recharge. But what's it going to say? What is it saying? You can't fill anyone else's cup if you don't fill your own cup or something like that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to do that. And it becomes like a matter of like, you have no choice but to do that. I wanted to share like a fact too about moms, just something that I read recently when we talk about being productive, right? Because first of all, we already are so productive because we are mothers and we exist in the world, whether you have a job or a side hustle or both, or you don't have, and you are or full-time mother. Mothers on average perform 4 hours per week of unpaid labor having to do with domestic work around the house or family. It is invisible labor that we all perform. So when you think about how many working hours per week do you spend with your kids? For me, it's 50. I've done the math of how many hours my daughter is awake that I cannot just be by myself. Like she is with me, she is awake, I am parenting. 50 hours a week on top of 4 hours a week of laundry, dishes, planning her lunch, cleaning, telling her she needs to pick up her shoes. Like, girl, that's 54 freaking hours. She's in daycare full time. So first of all, let's give ourselves a little bit of a break and reframe that, because shame does not help you be more productive. I wanted to start.
Shame does not allow you to be more productive. I love how you said that, because and you probably have experiences too, is mom guilt.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Lucas says that's overtime hours.
Yeah. Hey, who's giving me OT?
Yeah, who's giving me OT? For all of the lunches I have to freaking make, all of the cleaning, like all of that.
I'm not getting a thank you. Like sometimes we don't even get a thank you. We're just like, yo, I'm just here. I'm just here existing. Like I'm just here
doing my duties.
Humans alive and making money. Like we only keep small humans alive every day. So.
Yeah. And then I want to touch on that. Like Lucas said, overtime. You don't get paid overtime.
Yeah.
That's why we have to pay ourselves with overtime by doing those self-care routines, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's an emotional labor there as well, because, you may be doing these, hours, but it's like your mind doesn't really ever stop, because how often in your day are you like, oh my God, how many toilet paper rolls do we have? Shoot, I'm out of jam. I literally have these thoughts all the day. I'm like, we're out of jam. I was going to make your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And like, that's where your brain is all the time. So like that takes effort. This is why you feel exhausted, which is why before productivity hacks, it is how can I replenish myself as a human in my mind and in my body first, because you're doing so much invisible labor, I promise you, that you don't even realize. But wanted to drop that. Mm-hmm.
No, that was so good.
Yes.
Yeah, I always feel like my mind is going. That's why that's when anxiety tends to happen, and like you get that tightness in like feeling in your chest. That's why you have for me, I have to do something active. That's why I'm dancing all the time or trying to or getting on my Peloton, right?
Yes, moving your body is super important. Get it out of your body. Like going for a walk. Literally, that's still my thing. I still go for walks every day.
I love how you said though too, like when you were doing your walks, like when you like got off from work, it was like almost like your way of like switching the environment. Yes. So now you could focus on your business, right? Mm-hmm. So what are your and I got to wrap up soon. What are some of your tips for those side hustlers out there?
Okay, so I think firstly, I always ask myself, and when I work with clients, out of all of the things that you think that you have to do every day, which of those do you absolutely need to do? Are there some standards that really are unnecessarily high? Are there some things that you could just make peace with not happening? Because I promise you, like, there's just a lot of the things we tell ourselves have to be a certain way or a certain standard. They do not. So I'm always a fan of very first layer, what can we let go before we think about what can we add on? How can we do more? Is there something in your life you can let go? I have this is a privilege to be able to do this. So I want to like preface it with that. But I had to reframe my thoughts around hiring a house cleaner, around getting groceries delivered to the house, around buying food from the Trader Joe's frozen section so that I don't have to cook, just time savers and getting rid of stuff that you don't necessarily have to do. The other is getting comfortable asking for help. I know that's a privilege as well to be able to do that. But I had a hard time asking for help because I felt like I didn't want to be a burden. So part of that was in my own head, even when I do have help. So can you ask for help? Can you say, listen, I need to get some work done and I want to get out of the house because being at home with my kids, like my brain is still hearing them and you know what I mean? So can you ask for help is probably the other one. So yes, ask for help, invest in time savings, and what can you get rid of, like just right off the top that you can just be comfortable with either letting go of that standard, letting go of it altogether, or just kind of giving yourself grace. I feel like it's kind of those are my main ones. And fourth, I'd say is, are there ways you could be intentional with like, what is my focus right now? Put the phone away, put it on do not disturb, and stop trying to do like 3 things at one time. Because even though we're really good at multitasking, the brain, it doesn't really do as good of a job when you're trying to do 3 things at once.
Yeah, I've actually been trying is it called the Paradamo practice, where you do things and switch up tasks for every 25 minutes. I've also done like time blocking too. But you know what's crazy? Now that I'm back working full time, I feel very how do I say this? I'm more intentional with my time.
Yes.
And I'm actually, it may look like I'm like really busy I am busy at work, but also managing my business. But believe it or not, I'm spending a lot more time with my kids.
Good.
Because I'm learning
that. Yeah.
I'm learning to shut off and delegating. I've hired someone to help me, and I've been blessed to be fortunate to hire someone to help me. And then, although I love doing all of the creative things here on LinkedIn, that's why I've reached out to DJ. She helped me do the promo. I'm learning to give up on things to get more time back for me and my family.
Yes. Let go.
Let go.
There is a power of letting go. You're carrying a lot of things with you, and it's kind of like when you're trying to bring all 10 grocery bags in the house at like one time, you're just like, do I need to do this? Or are there some things that I can kind of let go or ask for help? So yeah, right. I think that's really powerful.
I want to highlight this really quick. Julie, who's going to be my client soon, she says, this is so true on time savers and being willing to outsource certain work that makes sense. So you can really put your focus where you need to. Yes. So important. Yes. Michelle says, mom guilt is so real. I was away for 5 hours Sunday to get my self-care in. Hair care, colored. Good for you, girl, after 2 years. And I sat in the chair soaking the mom guilt. Any tips from you, Mariella, on how to deal with that?
I'm so excited to answer this question because last week I went to the Bay Area to visit my family, and I was away like 75% of the time. I was just like, love you guys so much. Bye, 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 bye. But it took me a while to get to this place because what I thought about was, what sort of example do you want to model for your children?
Right.
Because when they see, kids don't want a productive mom. They want a happy mom that takes care of herself. So there's so much value in you modeling behavior that you will go and take care of yourself. And then you're going to come back and you're going to feel better when you are with your kids, rather than being overwhelmed. Potentially when you don't take care of yourself, you project some of that onto your kids. You might be snappier. You have less patience. So that is something you are doing for yourself, but you're also doing it for your kids. You're setting a really good example.
That's why I think I'm spending more time with my children, because I voiced noted you the other day and said, I got, although I feel like I'm a little bit behind with my business, I got my self-care routine down. That's something that, like, I'm going on my 3rd week. I got my Peloton, and I've been on that. I've been meditating. I've been journaling. Like, I'm doing at least like three of them a day, if not like 1 or 2, the combo. And I feel good. And because of that, I haven't been as I've been more patient with my children.
That is good, and that's really what it takes. It's much less often about doing more and than it is about doing the right things, but always kind of starting with you first, because you are the vessel by which all of these things happen. And you are such a nurturer, and you cannot nurture others if you don't nurture yourself. So
No, that's so true. Oh, I love that. Okay, we're gonna wrap up now, guys. So how are you celebrating Mother's Day this weekend?
Well, if my second vaccination doesn't totally take me out, because I'm getting my second vax tomorrow, and it doesn't take me out,
You
I'll
should have
celebrate.
scheduled it a different weekend.
I know, I didn't do the math. I literally forgot like when Mother's Day even was when I got my first one. So, it'll be fine. But I'm going to celebrate with my sister and my brother-in-law. So I honestly am like, I don't even care. I just want to get out of the house and just be with my family and, the people that I love. So I don't know exactly what we're doing, but if the weather permits, I'm a happy girl when I am outside.
Oh, me too.
So,
And then, last question. What is your favorite thing or favorite part of being a mother?
My favorite part of being a mother is seeing possibilities reflected back to me of what a healthy childhood looks like, and what me being able to choose differently of all the things that I wanted and needed as a child that I get to now pour into her. And it's almost like I get to experience myself through another human, because I see how she is, and I'm like, gosh, I don't want to change it. Even though you drive me crazy sometimes, I don't want to change anything about you, girl. You are the most confident. She is the most confident, bright, funny. And I love that. I'm like, she is my muse and my opportunity to see what life is like, when a child has everything she needs. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're giving me tears right now. Before we hopped on live, we were like, we're not going to cry again, because every time we go live, we cry.
We go deep. So.
No, I love that. That's my favorite thing too, is experiencing everything that I could provide my children.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm getting emotional.
Oh my God, I didn't turn my camera off. It's great to experience everything that I can provide my children that my parents couldn't provide for me.
Yep. There's so much power in there. I'm really glad that you shared that. This is powerful. We are just here doing the best we can with where we are, and that's the beautiful thing about motherhood, and this is why it's so important to pour into ourselves. We are doing it. We're changing generational narratives here.
No, exactly. And then like being both daughters of immigrants, it's so important to recognize that too, and continue the legacy that we're building for our children to make our parents proud. So
yes, and it's so much more about who we are being than what we are doing when it comes to life and when it comes to parenting.
I hope you guys are taking notes here.
Girl, I was like, oh, sorry. I was already like, you got me with this intro, but I didn't expect
I know, I saw you. You're like, why am I your tears? Anyways, thank you so much, Mariella. Please connect with Mariella. I just dropped her information there in the comments. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. I will see you soon. Thank you so much again for the support. Thank you, Mariella, for spending my lunch break with me.
Thank you, June. I adore you so much.
I appreciate you. I'm so glad to have you in my corner. Thank you again, everyone. We will see you soon. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
Now this for everybody fighting through the pain and the pressure. Life will try to test you, but you promise not to give up for your mama and your sister, hun. Your